This episode of the OnlyKings podcast is brought to you by OrganicPricedBooks.com. Guys, there's not been a better time to get into collecting comics, and OrganicPricedBooks.com has multiple formats such as the Omnibus, Deluxe hardcover, and trade paperbacks at huge discounts, such as The Amazing Spider-Man Volume 5, originally at $125, marked down to $80. Use my discount code NOAH, N-O-A-H, at checkout for an additional discount on top of what you're already getting, which can range from anywhere between 25 to 42% off. Again, OrganicPricedBooks.com, discount code NOAH, N-O-A-H, for an additional discount. Now back to the show. Savannah Lee, how's it going?
Hello, it's going good over here. How's everything with you?
Good. It's good to virtually see you again after so long.
I know, it's so crazy, like how fast the time flies and all that.
No, I was just having this conversation last night, just like time in general, and how like the person I was talking with, they didn't really miss being a teenager very much. Yeah. And frankly, neither did I. Like you and I, both going to NIMI, we had a very different like high school experience, but like it's weird, like looking back at that, at least for me, because it's like that. I know for a fact, unless the stars align and God Himself might as well come down. That's like the only time that set of friends will ever be together.
Yes.
And that's just it's such like a weird thing to think about how like many different paths everyone took, for better and for worse.
Exactly.
So, before we hopped onto this, I did some looking under your YouTube page, and I know you've been posted there recently, but I love what you put up there. And it just seems like almost borderline on like hyper enthusiasm and like motivation and like a positive attitude is just like so much a part of your character.
Mm-hmm.
And we need more of that today. But like, where does that come from for you? Like, how do you find that, especially like now?
To be honest, like I feel like I was kind of like born like that. I've always been like high energy, but my mom, she always tried to like calm me down a little bit. She's like, whoa there, you're going a little too crazy. But like, as you grow up, obviously you start to learn about like the darker things in life, and the whole world always tries to like kind of box you in, you know what I mean? And be like, oh, you're too hyper, you're too excited, it's Monday morning, like calm down. And I think that also like my relationship with God and everything, that really helps, because when everything else is going crazy, like you have that rock in your life. And so I feel like that's why I post like spiritual things too, because it's just been like such a big part of my life,
No, for
and
sure.
like peace and all that stuff through it all. So
that's awesome. So, I mean, as much as you would like to talk about it, so I'd imagine that you mostly would identify with Christianity, or is a specific denomination within that?
I like to say I'm non-denominational Christian, and also at the same time I tell people like I don't even like labeling it, because with Christians especially, it's like it's so broad. You have Christians over here that like live and do their own thing and they just say they're a Christian, and then there's some people who are like super religious, and it can almost be like too much, like really mean people that like judge you all the time.
Right.
And so like I just like to say like I have a personal relationship with God, and I try to follow the rules the best way that I can.
Yeah, no, and that's super important that you bring up that, like, especially at that further end of the spectrum. I mean, with those people who want to, I guess I would say they almost like cherry pick, right? They pick what they like out of the Bible, and they pick what rules they can follow the easiest, and they attack everyone else who doesn't. Like, and namely, the people in that camp, they love like bagging on homosexuals, or obviously those other religions when it's like, okay, well, yeah, by the standard, yeah, sure, they're breaking a rule, but like, I mean, how many other ones do you want to cherry pick that you're breaking every day? Are you recognizing that, or are you just kind of like swishing that under the rug?
Exactly. And it doesn't make sense, and it kind of contradicts itself when it says, don't judge other people. And it's like, how are we going to judge like your relationship with what you believe in? Like, I'm not going to come and like go into your marriage and be like, your relationship with your husband or wife isn't perfect and like you're going to hell or whatever. Like, it's not even my relationship to be like involved in the first place. So,
and that's such a crazy thing to like tell somebody, "Hey, you're going to hell." Like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Like, are you sure? Like,
Yeah.
me myself, I am a Christian, and that's the thing that I best try to follow. And I mean, I
Right.
fuck that up every day, but that's the whole point. But like that's just a crazy thing. Like, because you have to go under the assumption, and it's the hardest thing. Like for me to explain to people who aren't of the same religion, where it's like, yeah, I like recognize that like even though I
Right.
believe it, there's a lot of things that just does not make sense. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where the faith portion kind of comes in. Um and and again, so when people go out and they accuse and they're like, "Oh, well, you're gonna go to hell if you do X, Y, or Z," it's like, well, this is also under the argument that Christianity is the right one. Like, are you sure? Like, nobody knows. Like, we have faith and we believe it, but do you have scientific fact that you're gonna go to hell after you die? You know,
Yeah.
it's such a crazy thing. So how has this been like a consistent thing for you since growing up, or is this kind of like a newer addition to your life?
Well, like since I was younger, for some reason, I always just knew I was like, there has to be like a higher power. I don't remember anyone ever telling me or like trying to push religion onto me. I remember asking my mom, I was like, what does God look like? And she like tried to explain to me, he's like this spirit. You can't really say what he looks like. And then I remember my aunt, who was actually Catholic, she actually gave me like a little picture of Jesus, and she's like, this is what God looks like. And I was like so mad because I was like, what? My mom didn't say that's what God looks like and all this like crazy stuff. And so, it was just like a journey kind of. No one ever really like pushed it on me. So I'm happy that they didn't, because then I could like find it on my own and like, yeah, so that was nice. But yeah, so just growing up, it wasn't like always a perfect relationship. I wasn't always like a goody two shoes, like perfect person. I'm still not. And like I still struggle with things. And I think a lot of people think that, Christians are perfect. And even like Christians, not all of them, but some of them will try to be like, my life is so perfect and this and that. But, everyone still struggles with things. It's about like, who are you struggling with? You're struggling with God. Like it's like a relationship, like I said. But I feel like the last few years is when I like really started to get closer to God. Just like coming back from Nemi and stuff and just being in like the real world and not being like a kid anymore, I guess.
Right.
So yeah.
So, and that's actually one of the videos of yours I like the most is when on your YouTube channel where you spoke a lot about being a female in that military school setting. Um, obviously, even though we went through the same structure, my experience was incredibly different, I would imagine, than yours. So you started out as a freshman, correct? At 14 years old?
Sophomore.
You're a sophomore. Okay.
Yeah.
So you must have been 15 or are you still 14?
I think I was 15. Yeah,
Okay.
15.
And so starting out as a sophomore in high school, going through sophomore, junior, and then senior year, well, I mean, I guess what like put that idea in your head that you're gonna spend the beginning of your adolescent years at a military school off in nowhere, New Mexico in Roswell?
Yeah. It was actually really crazy. So, I just had like kind of a crazy upbringing going in between like my mom's house and my dad's house, like the separation. And so there's just like a lot of drama and then like a new step parent added to the
Right.
picture. And so it wasn't that I necessarily had like issues with people telling me what to do. I wasn't like a bad child or whatever, but there was just so much going on that I think my mom was like, the issues you're having at your dad's house, the issues you're having here. I just want you to be like away from that. And so my grandma actually lived in El Paso. So she was like a few hours away from Roswell. And so I wasn't like completely alone, but at the same time, like, I still felt like I needed that. I was like, that would be so cool to go to a military school and just kind of get out of this little town, because in little towns a lot, people are like, they just have this kind of standard for you. And I'm like, I just want to break outside of this. I want to get away from the town and get to see what the rest of the world is like. And it was one of the best decisions, to be honest. It was really scary, but it was probably the best decision I ever made, to be honest. So
No, that's awesome. What do you think was like the hardest thing for you going through that at such a young age? As a female, a very young one at that. And for the people listening or watching that don't really know about the school, it's a military boarding school down in Roswell, and it starts you out. Well, you can start whatever you want, but the earliest you can go right now is a freshman in high school, right? That's between 13 and 14 years old. I heard rumors are trying to add a middle school day thing, and that's bananas to me. That is
No.
a horrible idea.
Mm-mm.
Bananas. Um, so you start out as a freshman in high school, you go through your 4 years of high school, and then you can do 2 years of junior college. And I think their age cap is like 23, 24 years old. So in theory, you could have an entire decade
Yep.
of an age gap there, which even like as a cadet, like just looking at it, I was like, this is insane. Like that's crazy. So like what was like the biggest challenge for you like going there?
Well, when I first started, I like dealt with a lot of anxiety. It's still something I struggle with. And the number one thing I was afraid of was the PT. Because I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm not some hardcore person. I don't go to the gym. Like that was before I used to work out at all. And so I just dealt with anxiety in that. So because I know when they interview you, they ask you like, do you want to go to the school? Because if you say you don't want to go to school, they're not going to let you in.
Right.
And so I actually ended up having to do the math camp because I didn't pass the math portion of the test to get in. So that was actually really awesome for me because I was able to have like a couple weeks ahead of time so I wouldn't like be fresh, fresh meat or whatever. And I kind of like had a little head start. And so like I even knew like the Goss quote. I think that's what it's called, right? The Goss quote.
Oh God, I've
Um,
thought about that in fucking years. Yeah.
Yes, I don't even remember it now, but I knew it ahead of time, and all the other rats were like, "Dang, she already knows it." And so, but I dealt with a lot of anxiety because I don't know, it's just it runs in my family, and like we would do PT in the morning, and for the first couple days, I was like feeling sick and stuff, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, can I go to the bathroom?" And like I stayed in there. Like the first two times I stayed in there and I didn't work out with everybody. Like that's how bad it was. And so that was like a big thing. And I know a lot of people struggle with like being away from family and stuff. But for some reason, I was good to go. I was like, I'm independent. I'm out here. And I was just good. You know what I'm saying? So I think that was like my main struggle.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And just that was a weird thing, being away from home so early. But yeah, I feel like the more you like, because you can't really resist it, right? There's a lot of things that when you're starting out, like if the more you push back, the harder it is. And so the more you like kind of just embrace what you're doing, you get along with the people around you, your rap buddies. I feel like that makes your time like a whole lot easier there, like by a large margin. Um, yeah, I can't even remember my rat week, to be honest with you. Like we're in 2021 right now. Yeah, so coming up in this summer would have been 10 years that I started there, which is
Wow.
ridiculous. Which is ridiculous. So
Uh,
what's like some of the I know there's a lot of them and we have more than enough time to talk about it. Like what are the like some of the best things that came out of your experience there?
I have like a few friends that I still talk to, but like even you, like everybody that like the relationships that we build, even if we don't talk to each other for like years at a time, like we could just like pick up a conversation just like we still are friends with that person.
Yeah.
So the relationships and also just kind of like the pride that you have of being like an alumni and you actually did it. And if you think about during rat week and stuff, and even when I was in summer camp, like how many people didn't even make it past the first couple weeks because it was too hard for them, and just to overcome like anxiety or stress or whatever like each individual person is going through, to be able to overcome that is just something that you can like carry with you throughout the years and stuff. And it's like a love-hate relationship when I think about it, because well now it's more like the sweet part rather than the bittersweet, because you kind of reminisce on like the good parts. But um yeah, I don't know, like I still miss it there sometimes, and like the people there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, and
Same.
what I liked a lot about that like experience Joe, that you put up is you were super real about it, right? And there's an elephant in the room when it comes to young girls going to a school like that. Parental speaking, they're unsupervised and they're around a bunch of older guys, and there's a huge thing that like nobody really talks about. When you brought it up, there's a
Yeah.
lot of just unexpected attention that girls get like the second they get there.
Mhm.
So kind of like I want to get your perspective on that. Like what was that like getting so much male attention as such a young girl and then continuing your years through there?
Right. See, that was actually really crazy for me because I think wasn't the ratio like one girl to it was either 11 guys or 20 guys. It was like a ratio
So
like
I don't
that.
think it ever got up to 20. I remember the lowest that it was when I was there was like 1 to 8, but I want to say back when like because you're just a year below me, so like when we were both going through high school, it was like yeah 1 to 11, 1 to 13 around there, which is
Right.
absolutely fucking bonkers. Like that's
It really is.
ridiculous.
But apparently the females took up like 50% of the leadership positions, which I
Right,
thought was really cool.
right,
But so when I went there, I did realize that to be honest, I wasn't like mature enough to be like in a full-blown like relationship with anybody, but as far as like the attention and stuff, to be honest, like I think it does go to some people's heads, but then they just don't even think about it. And then when they leave, they're like, "Whoa, nobody likes me." You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of how it is, but I noticed that like a lot of young girls were getting attention from like college guys. And I'm
which
like those
is
college guys,
horrible.
yeah, it's a little sketchy, like freshman in high school and then like a college guy and stuff. And I'm like, there's really nothing I can say or do because you don't know like what's really going on. But that part was kind of sketchy. But yeah, I'm just blessed because I like did have like God too. So like I kind of had my morals set and I was like, I'm just not gonna, go after all that. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of how my experience was.
Yeah, and I
So
remember every year that I was like going through the program at the beginning of the year, they would have like the girls' meeting, and I always thought that was interesting. So finally, when I ended up, I think I did it like the end of my freshman year of college, or definitely the beginning of my sophomore year. I had a conversation with the commandant at the time, and I sat down and I was like, "Can we have a guys' meeting? Just is that a possibility?" Because I can only imagine the shit they were telling you guys in closed doors.
Mhm.
What did they tell you guys? I never like they still never told me. Like they would never. And I don't think I dug enough necessarily. But like, what was that female meeting like? That was like an every year thing at the beginning of the year, right?
I'm trying to remember. I feel like that memory kind of faded from me, so it must not have been too crazy, but I'm trying to think. They probably just said, "Oh, don't sleep around" or stuff like that. Like that's probably
Right.
all they told us to be
Right.
honest.
Some
And
just
other
general
than that,
shit.
yeah, they're like, "Just don't trust anybody." No, I don't know if that's what they said, but
That's a good
yeah,
rule of
I
thumb.
must it was so crazy not to like tell on anybody. I don't know if anybody would even remember this, but back in summer camp we had like a female cadet and she like forced us all to ask somebody out. And this was like during the summer camp. I'm like 15 years old. She's like, "Yeah, all of you guys, you have to ask your crush out." And it's like, first of all, there's like only a few like guys here, and then we'll like compare to like the rest of the core and stuff. And I'm like,
Right.
and she was like, "If you don't, then I'm gonna smoke you guys if you don't." And I'm like, "Oh my
That's
gosh,
so
like this is
strange.
crazy." So yeah.
And that's
But
definitely
anyway,
and that's one of the crazier things too about that school, even like when you look at it at face value, because like you've got because what how old was that person? Like maybe 16?
yeah,
Right? So
probably.
so they're
I think
like
so.
at that they're just as stupid as you are.
Yeah.
Like it's much as it's really like with very few exception, and I know that I definitely fell into this category more often than not. It was like the blind leading the blind, and it's just crazy. Like if you take advantage and you are lucky enough to be able to mentor under the right like adult people there, right? If you're able to actually build those relationships, then there can be a lot of really good growth that can happen there. But more often than not, it's just a bunch of immature shitheads leading a bunch of other immature shitheads. Like, and it's crazy how like, cause when I finally left there, I was 19, turning 20, I think. Yeah, I was 19 turning 20 when I actually graduated from college and I left and like you said, got out into the real world. And as I started
Mhm.
like experiencing the world for itself, because you never really do when you're there. Like,
Yeah.
because you're there for what? Let's say liberally 9 out of the 12 months.
Mhm.
You're never really getting what the world is like, and certainly not as a younger age. So when you go out and you realize what the world is actually like. I kind of put myself in the shoes of the college kids that start out at only college. It's like, well, yeah, no shit. They want to smack the fuck out of these like 18, 17-year-olds because they don't
Mhm.
know shit about what's going on out on the outside world. And but on the flip side of that, like I said, if you're able to take advantage, and I'm sure you can speak to this, like you're able to like mature at a quicker rate, right? You can kind of carry yourself and handle yourself better. Do you find that like that was actually a skill that you were able to pull out of that?
Yeah, definitely. Especially like when working, because I actually worked like at a fast food, kind of like fast food, kind of not, but I worked at one of those places, and they were like surprised at how well I could like compose myself in certain situations. And you're like, and I was like, you have no idea the things that I've had to compose myself with, like fast food is fine. This is easy. And so yeah, just being in the real world and seeing how like people even older than me like struggle with these certain things like time management and waking up early. Like it's such a
Yeah.
hard thing. Like, people think that they have no time in the day, and it's like you really do. And like I feel like I kind of slacked too because like I'm free now, but it's like I need to put myself on the schedule again because I could do it before. Why can't I do it again? So
Yeah. No, that's interesting you bring that up because I find myself in the same trap. Even now, like I think 4 years after the fact, I need a schedule because if I don't have one, I'm kind of just like kind of slugging through my day and not really being all that productive. And it's saying that if like I said, like if you embrace it, how much you kind of pull out of that. So you graduate at high school. You didn't stick around for college, right?
no,
So
I didn't.
where did you find yourself afterwards?
So I actually was gonna go to college. I went for a little bit, but then I realized I was like wasting my time on something that I didn't want to do. And I was like, well, I don't know what I want to go to college for, right? And so then I was struggling with like things, living at my dad's house and stuff. And so I was like, I just need to save up my money to move out. Like that's what I need to focus on. And so that's when I got a job, and like I just focused on working all the time to save my money. And so now I'm at this point where I'm like, okay, I think I kind of know what I want to go for, but I'm still like focusing on so many different things and like personal training and stuff. And so I want to get like my certification. And but yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like I don't really talk to anybody about the college thing because it's like I feel like an outsider because I feel like everybody went to college, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's so much pressure to just go. But it's like I'm not trying to go into debt like that right now. I'm trying to wait
Facts.
until like I know what I want to do. So
Yeah, no. And it's good like for the amount of change that we're going through in society that's startling to say the least. But one of the changes that is pretty good, like I see there's the inherent value in college. Like I don't think that's really arguable, right? Learning, there is no like negative to learning, right? As long as you're learning like correct things that you actually care about and so on and so forth. But
right.
the idea that you don't have to go to college and that you should be able to make a I mean, there's a living wage, but like a sustainable wage, right? You should be able to make a sustainable wage outside of college. And that's where you go to like stuff like trade schools, or maybe you just start, you get your foot in the door at a company and you keep moving up, right?
Right.
I like that slowly but surely as a society, as at least as a Western society, kind of stepping away a little bit from the demand that college has. Granted, we're nowhere near to like people accepting that completely.
Mhm.
So what was it about college that kind of made you go, yeah, this is not it for me right now?
It is so crazy that story because my mom didn't understand it because back in her generation, like if you didn't go to college, it was basically over. It was
Right.
either that or working in like a factory or something like that. At least in the north. So, but in the north, I sound like north south, but industrial. But oh wait, what was the question again?
So
What made me not
what was
want
it
to go?
about college that like, made you go like this isn't really for me right now?
Oh, okay. So basically, I don't know, maybe I have trust issues or something because I felt trapped. I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm back at my hometown. Like I don't want to live here. I basically only came for my family because
And
I
where
haven't
was
been
this at
gone for
again?
so long." Racine, Wisconsin, so southeast,
Okay.
like 2 hours north of Chicago, basically.
Okay.
So I was like, man, like I don't even know. Like, cause when you're in military school, I feel like you're on the top of the world. You're like, yeah, I'm doing it. Like I'm doing something.
Doing
And then you
something,
go,
right.
yeah, like, and now it's like, oh my gosh, like, but anyway, so I think I felt like kind of trapped and like I wanted to be free. That's why I like doing things online because then I feel like I can travel, I could do this, I could do that. And so that was the main reason. And also like being in debt and stuff. I was like, I don't want to pay all that money right now because my mom was only going to cover like half of it. And I was like, I just want to work so I can move
Yeah.
out and do all that. So,
No, that's
yeah.
crazy. And like, yes, you just reminded me of a conversation that I had with one of my friends about like 3 or 4 months ago. He came to me and he was like, "Yeah, man, like, I don't know where the fuck this is coming from, but like my anxiety's been shooting through the roof." And he's military as well reserves, and he he's a firefighter as well here in New Mexico. And he went to NIMI for a little bit, didn't stick around for too long, but he was long enough for it to have like some sort of an effect on his upbringing. And he's like, you know how like kind of how you just brought up, well, you're at military school, you feel like you're doing something, right? You feel like you're moving towards the next thing. And
Mm,
he's like, yeah, man, like I'm a firefighter, I'm going through my like his first like probation year, but like I feel like I'm not really working towards anything. And we had a long roundabout conversation, but one of the interesting points that we kind of came to was like, well, if you look at the military school we went to, what was like one of the big conversations? It was like, what are you doing next year? What
mm,
like rank or position are you going to do next? What is it? And it's never like being able to be content and like live in the present. It's just
yeah,
always like, this is cool, but you're working towards something better. And if you don't get something better, you failed. Right.
yeah.
How do you feel like, because being independent, being out on your own, and like it seems like you're very present. Like, and I see that like in your like social media stuff that you put up, your videos, like I said, even like your Snapchat stuff, you know, like you're very
Mhm.
like in the moment and present, and you know, and even bringing up a little bit how you kind of struggle with anxiety yourself. Like, what are like daily stuff that you kind of do to just keep yourself here, you know, keep yourself present?
True. So another thing to bring up too, I know you said anxiety. I actually also dealt with like depression, man, all these mental stuff, but
Yeah.
like leaving Nemi, like we were talking about, like you don't feel like you're working towards anything. And so like I kind of fell into that and I was like, whoa, like I never dealt with depression, so I never knew what it felt like or what it was like. And so I kind of fell into that. But like, with the relationship with God and stuff, I would like go drive out by the lake and just like do devotions and stuff like that just to like get my mental clear, to get out of like a negative situation that I was in. And so I think that helped me, like my relationship with God, and also just the people that I surround myself with. I don't have like a bunch of friends that I hang out with, but you just need like one good friend.
Yeah.
And we would just do random stuff, and being on social media, it's like also a love-hate relationship too, because it's so negative, but it can be really positive too. So I think that's one of the things that I do is I just try to be positive. I just try to watch positive things. I don't watch like fake news, or I don't watch like political videos or anything like that.
Yeah.
Um, and just with the movies that I watch too, I don't even watch like scary movies like that. Otherwise, I like start seeing things in my room and I'm like, nope, don't want to see that tonight.
That that's crazy you bring that up because I think it was God, I think it was Canelo, the boxer. He was having an interview and he tells these people about, like, they asked him like his mindset, right? Like, how do you stay on the top? How do you keep yourself in such great shape? How are you dominating all these people? And he talks about his mindset, and he says the same exact thing. He goes, "Dude, I don't even watch horror movies,
Hmm.
like, because that's just, I don't want negativity. Any sort of negativity, get that bullshit out of here." Which I think is
Exactly.
super interesting. And so for people who don't really like understand it or know what it is, like what is a devotional? Like what goes into doing that, and like why is it important to kind of like keep up with those?
So a devotional to me is basically like just having like a random passage in the Bible. Maybe you don't have to, but maybe like in Psalms, just reading something that's inspirational to you. You could buy like books online, and they'll have like a daily thing that you could look at, and just basically kind of sitting in silence. Like people meditate, you could call it meditating, and just like thinking of positive things, because what you think is what you're gonna see. And so like I think that's kind of like devotional and just, spend a good portion of your day. I like to do it in the morning time because like if you wake up and then you just go on your phone and like you see a bunch of like dumb stuff, like you're starting your day off wrong already. You're starting your day off with like a full cup of negativity instead of like, I don't know, peace or something like
No,
that,
yeah,
So
yeah, peace.
yeah, so I just like doing that, getting my mind right before I start my day. And yeah, that's pretty much what it is. So
No, that's like a really important thing that people need to hear about how much of a bad habit, and I definitely fall into it every now and again, but like how bad of a habit it is to wake up and immediately get on your phone.
yeah.
Regardless of what you're looking at, like obviously if you're looking at negative things, if you're looking at what's in the news right now, there's hardly anything positive in the news anymore. Um, but if you're looking at what's in the news or like even what's going on in your local community or even looking at very positive things in the morning on your phone, you're training your brain's reward system to just be immediately stimulated by these bright lights and sounds and noises and all this bullshit. It's like canned
Yeah.
shit. Like have you ever watched The Social Dilemma on Netflix?
Yes, I just watched that actually.
That's a crazy fucking documentary. And what I love
Yeah.
is I think there's a female that was talking about it. They're sitting her down and she goes, you either when you wake up in the morning, do you either look at your phone before you pee or while you're peeing? Because there's
Yep.
no other option for most
Oh my
people,
gosh. Yeah.
which is insane. And like just going, and I talk about that movie or that documentary about as much as I can, on and off the podcast, because like they have what's so interesting, like the little storyline with the family's kind of bullshit. Like I don't need you to like really spoon feed me that much. But like they
Yeah.
have these people sit down that were like heads of marketing, vice presidents, even some people that are at the startup of YouTube and Twitter. And they're
Hmm.
like, yeah, we engineer these things. Like they're doing exactly what they're built to do. They keep you hooked. It's not our fault that there's not the company's fault that like the world's gone to shit, but that's what gets clicks. That's what gets people buying things. Even the whole idea of like clickbait. Like if
Hmm.
you just have like a crazy headline about it used to be about like Trump, or now it's about like the coronavirus and all that. And did you see that they got this guy that works at CNN? He went on a Tinder date and he got a
Hmm.
little bit too loose, and he started telling this girl like a bunch of shit about how like CNN helped rig the election against Trump, how like they like spread mass fear for the coronavirus, and they're like, yeah,
Right.
like COVID fear is going down, so we're gonna ramp it up with climate change. When that goes down, we're gonna ramp up COVID again. Did you read about that?
I mean, not really, but I've definitely seen CNN. I've definitely watched it before, so I know how it is.
I'll try to find the article and link it to you after this. But yeah, and it turns out the girl like actually worked for like a separate like news outlet that was opposing CNN. So she just
Mhm.
turned right around and gave all the information to the news. But
Uh-uh.
I just think it's crazy how like stories like that can come out, and either like there's nothing that the common person can do, and then there's all the people that like haven't even heard of that happening. But it's
Yeah.
like clear like mass manipulation by the media. And then what do
Yep.
we do with it?
Exactly.
No, it's it's
And it
it's it's incredible.
and isn't it like fake news? It like travels like 6 times faster or something like that.
Yeah, and even like that term fake news is super subjective.
Yeah.
Because and it shouldn't be, right? Because you should be able to find out facts, but at least in my point of view, the people giving out facts, you can't really trust them anymore.
Yeah.
Um like I mean it's I don't know how sad or how like telling this is, but I trust more of what I hear on like Joe Rogan's podcast, or kind of a little bit of like what Shapiro puts out, or more like those guys, than I do
Yeah.
actual news outlets.
Mm.
Because I know
Yeah.
they're just like they have so many like interests feeding into them, like they're just so bought.
Right.
Um, so you're right now you're in Wisconsin.
Yes.
So what are your like COVID restrictions looking like up there?
Right now, I think like some businesses do have like a restriction on like how many people can go in. You still have to wear a mask, at least at like the gym that I go to, and like most places you wear a mask. I'm trying to think. I think that's pretty much it. You can go to movies and stuff. I think they still have like
The
separations
movies
and
are open?
they've been open like the whole time,
What the
basically.
fuck?
Like since
Ah,
April or May last year, I think they've been open.
what the fuck? Yeah, here in New Mexico, we are like, I think we're under some of the harshest restrictions because of our governor.
Mm,
Like when we actually towards the end of last year, we went into a full quarantine again during Thanksgiving, like for like 3 or 4 weeks. Like all small businesses shut down, non-essential. Now they kind of pulled out of that a little bit, but yeah, movie theaters are still shut down. Gyms have crazy regulations. Um, and not to like put a tinfoil hat on, but just like to me, I definitely want your opinion on it. Like to me, it seems like a little more of a control thing than it is an
mm,
actual like virus thing.
yeah.
You know?
I mean, I haven't gotten sick at all this year. Usually I have like at least a cold or two, within like a year span. So I'm happy that they're being clean and like, yeah, clean stuff, you know what I'm saying? But it's been so long. I'm like, it's been more than a year. Like, I'm done. If I'm gonna die, just let me die now. Like, quit
so
scaring me.
so like how do you feel about like so where you're living right now, are you eligible for the vaccine?
I think I can, but it's at like this Regency mall. So it's at like this really little mall in my town. And it just seems kind of sketchy for me. And I've like, I don't know, like I just kind of want to see how it kind of pans out. And I know there's more than one, um, what is it called? There's like more than one,
Vaccine? Or
like
like
there's more
brand?
than one, what is it called? I'm trying to think. Like more than one COVID-19,
Oh, more than one
basically. Strand.
strain?
Strand. There we go. Strain. Yeah. And so I'm like, if you get the vaccine, it's only for like that strain, I would think, And so it's like, I haven't gotten COVID-19 yet. I'd rather just get it and then build my immunity up that way. So,
Yeah, it was the weirdest thing. Well, even like because you work out, you take care of yourself. You said you're going for
yeah,
your personal training, so obviously you have to maintain a good diet and
right.
exercise regimen. So like statistically, you probably already got it, which is insane. And I remember like back, I got it right before Thanksgiving of last year,
Really?
and yeah, I got it, and like I kind of felt like a little bit of body aches, but I was also like training super hard and like being on a really strict diet.
Mm,
Um, and so my body's just always in pain. So I didn't know if it was like, am I sick pain or is it like just a byproduct of what I'm putting my body through? Well, I
right.
remember one night, I think it was a weekend. I was playing video games with my buddies online, and we're all like on Discord and shit. And I have my dip in, and I'm playing, and I'm like, hey guys, I can't taste my dip.
Oh,
And they're like, how
dang.
long have you had it in? I'm like, 10 minutes. And they're like, oh, fuck. I'm like, yeah, hang on. So I run upstairs, I grab a monster, and I crack one open. I can't taste the monster. Like the green monster,
Wow.
right? And I'm like, ah, like, guys, I can't taste my monster.
That's scary. Yeah, that is so scary.
It was weird losing my taste. Like,
Yeah.
because it just like, it feels like with food or like, it feels like everything's water.
Mm,
And like food is like just like if gray had a taste, that's what like everything tasted like.
oh my gosh.
Oh god, it was scary. But so what kind of going more on like because it's so important. I think outside of COVID, right? It's so important to maintain a good diet,
Right.
exercise regimen. What made you want to get into like doing personal training? Like is that just
I
like an
think
extension of your passion of working out or
right. I think it is kind of like an extension because like one day I do want to open up a gym and stuff and it's just like I think that's kind of like a step in the right direction is personal training people. But yeah, no, I've been working out for like a few years. I think Nemi helped me to kind of get into fitness more even though like that was the thing I was the most scared of. I was like, I feel good, like, and everyone like running together, like cadre helping the rats and stuff and like that camaraderie. I cannot say that. What?
um camaraderie. There we go.
Camaraderie. There we go. Like having that, it like was like, oh my gosh, like this is like love. This
Right.
is love, and like to help someone break out of their own mind because I think physical fitness is really in your mind of oh, I can't do this, And so, yeah, I just kind of fell in love with fitness.
Do
So
you do you find yourself kind of doing more like running and like cardiovascular work, or is it more like weight training, or do you have like kind of like a blend of both?
I like doing weights more. I haven't really enjoyed cardio as much as I should. I feel like I'm dying, but like with cardio and stuff, it's like either you feel like you're conquering the world or like you're dying.
Yeah.
So it's like there's no in between. So
No,
yeah.
facts. No, that's awesome. I mean, like, so I remember, I think it was last year, maybe a year and a half ago at this point, you sent me like what the different like certifications were. That's what I was kind of looking into as well. But like, so how far along in that are you? Because that's a lot of shit you got to learn, and it's not
Yeah.
cheap either.
It's like you're about to be a doctor. I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't need to know the name of like the nerve in this like in your forearm or whatever. I don't know, crazy stuff. But I actually took the test because I was like kind of nervous. I was like, I don't know what's gonna be on the test. And you get like 3 tries, I think, before you have to like pay for another test. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna take it. I'm just gonna study a bunch of stuff and take it. And I only got like a 54 or something, and you have to have like a 70. And so I was like, all right, that's nice. At least I know it's on there. Like my ego's kind of broken, but
Right.
like so yeah, I still have some studying to do and learning, like memorizing like the names of the muscles and stuff like that. So
Do you have like any? Because I remember you told me that you have like an online store, right? That you're trying to run your online company.
mhm.
So what does that normally circle around? And do you have any intention of kind of like merging that with your personal training, like a brand, or what started that first of all? I guess your online store.
Online store. You remember Oriana, right? Oriana Naki?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yes, I do.
Troop commander of
Mike,
was it
right?
Mike?
Yeah, that's
Yeah, she
taking
was
it
my
back.
ITC. So basically, she came up to me, or not came up to me, but she messaged me and was like, "Oh, so what do you use for like fitness stuff?" And she told me about her online store. And so basically, she was able to sponsor me because Amway is like I'm not sure if you ever heard of Amway, but they like have over 400 products, and like they're basically the manufacturer. And so like all of our products, it like goes through them. So then they get it packaged, they send it to people. I'm not sure if I would want to like incorporate it with personal training. I'm sure I could because like they have like fitness stuff. So, I'm just kind of working with that now.
Okay.
That's what I'm about right now. So,
So
yeah.
how much do you of your time do you think you put into doing like your online marketing stuff and all of your like you said it was called Amway? So how
Yeah.
much time do you think you dedicate to doing all that? Because I feel like that'd be a lot of time.
Yeah. So basically, I try to meet up with her. Like, we have like a meeting where we go over like numbers and all that stuff. We do that like once a week for about an hour. And then we have like a book club that we do. So, like, we take turns leading the group and we go through different books that we're reading. And that's like about an hour. And then I probably spend like a couple hours on my own too. I'm trying to like spend more and more, slowly, but just a couple hours like reaching out to certain people, just building relationships is the most important thing. I'm not just trying to steal people's money and
Nah.
all that. I'm trying to help them in general. So,
No, yeah, and
yeah.
I think it's awesome. And no, I mean, I think with the idea of like helping people and building those connections, I think that's a beautiful way to end this. Like you have that connection through Nimi, which is
Hmm.
insane. Like my producer, I don't think I'm trying to remember when he showed up. He might be your rap buddy. Are you rap buddies with Jay No?
I'm bad
Jason
with
No?
names. I'd have to see. If it was in like 2014, I think 2013, 2014.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember when he first showed up, but we've been friends, like kind of like the same thing, like often, like we communicated off and on after he left and after I finished Nimi, and he's got his whole project with like, cause he's a coder and he also makes his own music, and shout out to Aoki, good fucking music. And I messaged him and I was like, hey man, you're a good graphic designer. I love your music. Can you like work up a logo? Can you do a little bit of intro, outro stuff? I'll shoot you some money for it, dude. I really appreciate it. He's like, yeah, I'm down. And then like a week after that, he's like, dude, we can worry about money and shit later, but I'll just produce your shit for you. And
Wow.
then yeah, which is great. So he's the absolute mastermind behind like the audio, why it sounds so good now, and like our online website. We're gonna have a merch store coming up here in a little bit. So all of that shit is all like connections from Nimi, which is awesome.
Right.
Yeah,
You should
and
do an Only Queens shirt too.
so funny thing you bring that up. So we're gonna start out merch, right? And our first goal is to knock out stickers, something cheap, easy, real easy turnaround, and then go to pop sockets. But with the stickers, we're gonna do Queens as well. And I'm really excited to get those concepts going, and I'm really excited to get all that. And then hopefully, as we like build up some sort of a profit margin, we can go into like shirts and shit like that, and like the like drawstring bags and all that.
Yeah.
So
What inspired you to call it Only Kings?
Um, so I came up with it during like because the pandemic really kicked off for me in like March, right? March, April of 2020, and I was like, "Fuck, what is going on?" And I managed to actually like get a job. Thank God, I was able to get a job during that time. At a warehouse company, and it was a good job. Like, no, it wasn't really my taste, but it gave me money. That's all I cared about. And I like looked around and I was like, okay, it's a good company, but there's not a lot of people here. There's not a lot of growth, and it's one of those companies where it's like, well, you either like you can either get promoted here by someone dying, getting promoted, or quitting. Right? There is a hard cap on growth.
Right.
So I was like, fuck. Well, in the meantime, I'm gonna find a new job, but I need to like create something, right? And that's when like, when the lockdowns happen, I mean, I just gotten done with like I think 3 or 4 months of just sitting on my ass doing nothing, right?
Yeah.
Like I haven't played that much video games since like high school, man. It was scary.
Yeah.
And obviously, since you have so much free time and Joe Rogan's podcast is such like a long form conversation, I had all that time to listen to 2-3 hours of a conversation. And so what kind of pushed me to doing a podcast was him and Post Malone had an episode. And if you haven't listened or watched it, it's hilarious. Yeah. And all it is are these two idiots sitting. They take mushrooms and they just had a couple beers and they just like shoot shit. Yeah. And I listened to it and like on paper, not really anything interesting. Like it's not like super interesting content, but what was cool is that it was two people that really care about what they were talking about and they're having a good time. So then you're having a good time, right? And I was like, well, what do my friends do on a Friday night? We just hang out, shoot shit, and we make each other laugh for hours on end. So I was like, why can't you put a microphone in between it and just see what happens? And so that's where the podcast came from. The name was weird because like, obviously during the pandemic, everyone, like a lot of people unfortunately lost their jobs. And as a byproduct of that, a lot of people, predominantly female, got onto OnlyFans and started doing... started doing all their stuff on OnlyFans. I'm like, that's fucking hilarious. Like, I didn't see anything wrong with it. I thought that was hilarious. Like, if you can really make a profit off of people being horny, I think that's hilarious.
Side note, do you know anybody from Nemi who got one?
Do you?
No, I didn't.
Say, do you?
There's no way. I could not.
I know anyone? Well, I know that I can proudly say I've never subscribed to an OnlyFans because that's just like at that point you're just burning money. Like if you really just want to burn money like that, like no.
Go to the strip club. Oh wait. It's online.
No. You know what? Actually, I do know somebody from Nimi that has an OnlyFans, and it's a dude. Funny thing.
Really?
It's a dude, yeah.
You should say who it is, or is that too much?
I will not say who it is out of respect to that gentleman, but he does have one, and I think it's hilarious. But I saw like the rise in that, right? And the logo is so simple, but it's good, right? And I kind of just looked at it and I was like, that's kind of fucking funny. I'm not gonna lie, like that's good for them. And I was on the phone with my buddy Evan. We were on FaceTime, and I was like, "Bro, what if we called it OnlyKings?"
Only Kings.
And he was
Oh
like,
my.
"That's fucking stupid. You should do that." And so I kind of like asked around to a few people, and I just like test the waters. And I asked a couple of females too because I don't want to. My biggest fear, which is surprisingly something I haven't ran into, the biggest fear was I start this, and then it seems like a misogynistic, male
Mm,
only, platform. And I was like,
mhm.
let's, what, we're only gonna find out one way,
Right.
and we have to rebrand. We'll rebrand. Fuck it. And
Mm,
I thankfully haven't run into it. Um, but what's been awesome is like I like that the name kind of brings like it's not like as serious as it can get. It's not like an interview show. It's not like a super serious like what do you think about climate change? Like I don't give a fuck. Do you want to talk about climate change? I don't give a fuck, but sure we can. And and it's given me an opportunity to like talk to a lot of people. Like I know that I could just text you and we could probably have like a good phone call, right?
mhm,
But like it's weird how this platform there's like an isolation to it,
mhm.
and then um especially like when you're in like I love the fact that we have Zoom and we're able to do this, and I'm super grateful for it. But like whether it's this or whether like it's here in person, there's a weird amount of like I would almost say intimacy that happens because our
Mhm.
culture is so surrounded with their phones, right? Everyone's on their phones. I mean, back when restaurants were super prevalent and everyone was out and eating or going to clubs, whatever it was, how many times you go through a restaurant, there's a family of four eating and they're all like just,
Yeah. I hate that. I hate it so
you
much.
know?
Mm-mm.
So when you sit down and you have that conversation with somebody and there's no phones, the only internet access is like normally I have my buddy Joey, he'll sit like over here on the computer. So if we need something like looked up, we want to look at something funny, he'll pull it up and we can watch it.
Right.
Um or read it. But like the most people I've had in this studio at one time is like maybe four people,
Mm,
and there's something super awesome about that. And like
right.
it's kind of opened the door like the more hopefully the plan is like the more I'm able to do this, the more I'm able to talk to like I want it to be a good split between like this talking to a very interesting person that also happens to be my friend, and then hanging out like shooting shit with my buddies, getting hammered. We do that a couple times, and then like I had a great pleasure sitting down. Her name is Annalise. She's a family psychologist.
Mhm.
I released her episode a couple weeks ago, and just getting some really good insight onto like how the pandemic's affected mental health, how it affects families, how it ebbs and how that kind of thing is like ebbs and flows. It's just really interesting. And it's weird how big it's gotten.
It is. It really
It's
is.
weird how big podcasting's gotten because
Mhm.
I kind of like I feel like it's almost the clear evolution of like talk radio almost.
Mhm.
But even then on like talk radio you have people like playing characters or they're like a caricature of themselves. But
Right.
now it's more like the more authentic, the more obviously there has to be some level of being well spoken, but like how real you are is what's gonna
Right.
like kind of push you forward.
And it makes you feel
So
less lonely, like people listening to it. Like you're like, oh my gosh, I'm with these people. Like I'm not completely alone today. Like.
oh my god, yeah. I've had that moment where I'll have my AirPods in, I'm like cleaning my house, or I'll hear
Yeah.
something funny on an episode I'm listening to, I'll laugh at it. I'm like, oh, I'm laughing at no one. Oh my
Yeah.
god, I'm alone.
Pretty exactly. It's like, or you start talking, be like, oh my gosh, yeah, go girl or go guy. Like you start like hyping them up, and it's like they can't hear you, but okay. Yeah.
That's funny.
I mean, that's
well,
the life, us. I feel like it's lonely at the top. And so that's why we're lonely. And so we need people to listen to, you know what I'm saying? So
it's lonely at the top. Yeah. Well, if I get there,
lonely.
I'll let you know how lonely it is.
We're already there.
Oh
We're
yeah.
we're there in our
Oh,
minds.
thanks,
Okay.
man.
You just gotta see it happen physically.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a super busy person, and I get how that is having to carve out a certain amount of time. So I really appreciate it. And this has been a great time.
Mhm.
after I cut all the externals, I'll have a little chat with you. But this was great. Like I really appreciate you sitting down with me, even though it's virtually. I really appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Of course, nice. I'm glad we both have YouTube channels. We're YouTube stars. So everybody from my channel, check out his channel though.
Yeah. So where can people find you on YouTube? Where can they find you? I'll put a link in the description. But like, where can they
Okay.
find you?
Yeah, I'll send you like my YouTube link and then you can put it in the description because I'm not that popular yet. It's not that
Okay.
easy.
All right. Well,
So
awesome. I'll definitely put that in there. Thank you again so much. Thanks everyone for listening and watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.